All right. So here we are today. We're going to be talking about dilutions. And as you can see here, we have our formula necessary to solve for dilutions. We have C1V1 equals C2V2. And you'll notice here, for those of you who have watched some of my videos before, I do have a tendency to leave little pictograms to let you know there is something we need to know. So here we have our look sign. So we need to look for terms or phrases like added to, dissolved in, final volume, because this lets us know if we need to add the volumes that we're given or if they are already put together for us. Okay? Also, you need to think that your concentrations may show up as molarity or the big M that you see here. Okay? Also, you need to think about what was already there. So if you come into a room or the question reads with a certain phrase, stock solution. Stock solution is something that is already existing in the area or from a store. So please remember to think of dilutions as maybe a drink or a juice that is too sweet. So it's going to be super concentrated, and we're going to add something to it to kind of weaken it. So that is what happens with dilutions. Okay, so let's do our first problem here. A 17 molarity 500 ml solution is diluted by adding 500 mLs of water. What is the final concentration? So one of the first things you want to do here is list out your four different variables. So you know you'll be dealing with a C1, you'll be dealing with some type of V1, you'll be dealing with a C2, and you'll be dealing with some type of V2. So we already know the question is asking for final concentration. So we want to go ahead and say that we know that's what we're going to be asked, or that is what we're looking for. So we know that all the other information will fill in the other three variables. So here we're going through a 17 molarity 500 ml solution. Is diluted. So when we see is diluted, that lets us know this is as strong as it's already going to be. We need to make it weaker. So we have our concentration of 17 M. We have an initial or beginning volume of 500 mLs. So let's look at this. It says is diluted by adding 500 mLs. So my final volume is going to be the 500 that I began with plus the 500 of the water I added to that container. Okay, so 500 mLs plus 500 mLs is going to give us 1,000 milliliters. So I will tell you, you can have the rule of thumb of changing your milliliters to liters, which is always a great idea. But for the purposes of time and our review, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go out and say that 500 mLs we know is equal to 0.5 liters or half a liter. And then we know 1,000 mLs is equal to 1 liter. But please do yourselves the favor and get plenty of practice with your dimensional analysis conversions. Okay? But as long as your units match, you are able to work these dilution problems. So we could have worked them in milliliters, But for the sake of time and space, I went ahead and converted them for us. So let's go ahead and convert our formula of C1V1 equals C2V2. So we're solving for C2. So our formula is going to be C2 equals C1V1 divided by V. Okay, so let's fill in that information from our shopping list and see what answer we come up with. Okay, so C1 from our notes are 17 M. We're going to multiply that by our initial volume, which is 0.5 liters. And for those that choose to use 500, that is fine, as long as all of our units for one particular variable match. Then we need to divide all of this by our V2 or final volume, which is 1 liter. Before we do any mathematics, make sure that you go back through and cross out any like terms to make sure the term that you need your answer in is actually what is remaining. So we cross out both liters and we're left with molarity, so we know that we have the right thing. Okay, let's go ahead and multiply 17 times 0.5, and we're going to end up with 8.5. We know if we divide that by 1, it is still going to be 8.5. And don't forget your unit. So your final concentration is going to end up being 8.5 molarity. Because if we know that we're dealing with molarity, we know our volume is going to be whatever that is over liters. So once again, thank you for tuning in, and I hope this was helpful. Happy studying with your dilutions problems.